Hello, mainstreamers and cinephiles and everybody in between. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
And Operation Silver Screen is a go.
Hello, and welcome to Operation Silver Screen. This cinema-related operation has been created to clear our desks from stacks of open cases. And what are these cases? Well, even being the film lovers that we are, Bryant and I still have a huge backlog of must-see films that we still need to experience. So each week we'll tackle a film that either one of us or both of us still need to see. We'll then provide a debrief of our week's mission, giving our outlook on the film's popularity and significance, as well as providing our opinion on whether or not it is worth seeing and other fun insights. So Bryant, what was our mission this week?
Yes, this week our mission is another festive one. Believe it or not, there is a Thanksgiving-themed movie out there. At first, you and I, we thought, well, we're probably just going to go ahead and pick some random movie or some family get-together. But there is a Thanksgiving must-see. And it comes in the form of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, comedy starring two comedic actors, very well known for their time. I was about to say two comedic comedians. But John Candy and Steve Martin, movie from 1987, and by John Hughes, which was surprising to both of us. Even though I've seen this movie, I completely forgot it's a John Hughes movie. Watching it, sometimes I was reminded that it's a John Hughes movie, but for the most part, it's not what you usually think of when you think of John Hughes. You usually think of teens, the Brat Pack, the young love as well.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't actually realize it. I think maybe we talked about it, but then I had just forgotten. So I didn't realize it until, as the credits were rolling.
Yeah, we even talked about it when we decided to do this. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
this is a John Hughes movie?
Yeah, I completely forgot.
I forget this is a John Hughes movie, and then there's a movie that I always think is John Hughes, which is
Which one?
St. Elmo's Fire.
Okay.
Which I don't think I'm alone on. I think everybody thinks that's a John Hughes film, and it's actually Joel Schumacher. But it has a couple of the Brat Pack in there, along with a lot of other young stars.
I haven't seen that one, actually.
I remember when I watched it, I enjoyed it, but I looked it up again, and it doesn't have great ratings. But I think it is somewhat of a classic. Just like for those growing up during those times, they remember watching the movie and enjoying it. But it's probably not like the critical must-sees that we do.
Okay.
But if you want to see some of you want to see one of those movies where like, oh, they're in this? Oh, they're in this? During the younger days. Now, this is a movie that I have seen, and you have not, Caitlyn. What was holding you back from this? Did you even know that this was a must-see movie?
No, not at all. Well, I got this confused with other train movies. There's a handful of train movies out there. There's Throw Mama from the Train, Strangers on the Train.
Yeah, it's almost like
Strangers
it's
on the Train, whatever you call it.
Primary source of transportation. Weird how it's a continuing setting throughout history.
Yeah, but there's just a handful of movies, and so this was not what I was thinking. I was thinking that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I didn't think it was gonna be a comedy. I thought it was. I was thinking more Hitchcockian, a little bit more suspenseful crime. I was thinking that. I think I was thinking of the actual Hitchcock train movie.
Oh, so you're like, are they going to get murdered on the plane? Or is it going to be on the train? Is it going to be in the automobile?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I went into this, I was like, oh, 80s, John Candy, Steve Martin. I was like, oh yeah, this is not the film that I'm thinking it is.
No, not at all. And actually, you make a good point. There are a lot of train movies, especially with the name Train in it. I think that's the biggest thing is that they always throw train in it. The Train to Busan, Bullet Train, the Murder on the Orient Express, which is a train.
Yeah.
Man, they keep just kind of building it up on trains. I want to just see, Snowpiercer was all on a train. That was a whole civilization on a train.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of see the ante keep getting upped until it's just I don't know, a whole solar system of trains. Even Rick and Morty did an episode where it was a multi-dimension train going on.
There's a couple Doctor Who episodes too.
Oh yeah, there are some good ones too. At least one that I can think of in particular, where it is much like Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes, definitely.
This I have seen this film before. This is another one in which my mother showed me. I'm starting to see a pattern here. A lot of the 80s movies, a lot of the 80s must-sees my mom showed me. And that's because that was her time of growing up and watching movies. She was a teenager during that time. So she got to see a lot of movies. My grandfather was big into movies, her father. So that's how it came down to me to finally see Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And this isn't the only Steve Martin movie that she showed me. The other one is The Jerk, which, have you seen that one?
No.
Or actually, have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, yeah. I've definitely heard about it.
Yeah, that one, we have to see if that's a must see, because that's gonna be a fun one to talk about, because that has some humor in it that's controversial. I believe the movie starts with Steve Martin saying, I grew up as a black boy.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a great start up to it. Now, before we get into this movie, I want to let you guys know that we will not be spoiling any of this movie for the first portion. When we do get into the spoiler territory, I'll be sure to go ahead and give you a heads up. I won't continue talking like John Candy does in this film and just give everything out there. So if you haven't seen this film yet, if you're waiting for your first time to see it to be, during the actual Thanksgiving day, then, just keep an ear out for when we get to that spoiler portion. Now, critics look positive on this movie. Actually, everybody looks pretty positive on this movie. It has a 7.6 on IMDb, and it has a 92% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes with an 87% audience rating. There's no awards for this movie, but again, there's not a lot of awards for comedy films, especially in the 80s. I don't know really when they started awarding comedy films.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, some tend to do well in the Golden Globes.
Yeah, but when did the Golden Globes make that category for themselves, I wonder? Or was it always there? Because the Golden Globes weren't always there. So I wonder if that's a category that they brought themselves to kind of differentiate from the Oscars.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to look that up.
Anything that you found in what critics had to say about this movie or audience?
Yeah, just that it was well received, as you said. It did open in the box office the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so I'm sure that was a positive aspect to that box office success. It did have a budget of an estimated $15 million. Its gross in U.S. and Canada was about $49 million, a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think this movie could have done better too if they lowered the rating, but I mean, this movie, I believe, is rated R. And
yes,
it's for one scene in particular, but it was the scene that won over Steve Martin. So I wonder if that's why they kept it in there. But they could have easily gone down to a PG rating. PG-13 at the time, too, I believe.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we go into opinions.
And before we get to opinions, this movie, as the title suggests, it deals with planes, trains, and automobiles. And why are these people taking so many different forms of transportation? You would think that, you just take one or the other. And some people are thinking that, well, I guess the 80s just worked like that. Like, dang, the 80s sounds hard to travel in. You had to take planes, trains, and automobiles? God dang. Now, what happens is that Steve Martin, who plays the straight guy in this movie, he has a delayed flight, and he ends up coincidentally running into the same funny man in this movie, John Candy, to the point where they're like, all right, let's just help each other out, because they have to find somewhere to stay because there's a winter storm that delays one of their flights. It goes from delayed just to straight canceled. And all Steve Martin is trying to do is make it home to his family for Thanksgiving Day, which is in 2 days. And between the world just hating this man or this pair, or has some twisted way of bringing them together, and John Candy's innocent but kind of clumsy, foolish behavior, they just get one delay after the other, just one hiccup. Now, Caitlyn, what did you think of this movie?
I think it was a sweet film. You said before that it could have had a lower rating than what it did. It does feel like a family movie, and it really would have been if it wasn't for just a couple scenes, mainly one scene where Steve Martin lets out a whole bunch of F-bombs, which is an iconic scene of the film, so I can understand why everyone had kept that in. There is also another scene with some hood ornaments that are a little bit questionable on a car. But overall, it does have a family-friendly feel, so I feel like those moments for me did take me out a little bit. I don't think that this film was as humorous as I would have expected for an R-rated film. Like, I don't feel like I needed raunchy comedy, but I feel like the comedy in general was a bit toned down. That's why I think it has that family-friendly feel.
Yeah, it's definitely a sweet movie, and that scene is great. And I can still see this being a family film. Like this is the kind of family film that you sit down, you watch with your youngling, like a 10-year-old, and be like, hey, I'm gonna let you watch this movie. I'm gonna let you know, all right, that it's gonna have some f-bombs in it. Now I'm trusting you to be responsible, to be a grown up, and watch this and not repeat it. It's kind of like the experience of the first time a parent shares a beer with their child. Everybody has that time at age 5 when they share their first beer with their parents. It's kind of like that.
Okay. You all
Hey,
right, Bryant?
hey, hey! It was still structured. All right, it was still well tamed. Didn't get to do shots till I was 7. Just kidding. But yeah, it's a fun movie, and it is an interesting type of comedy. But I would say that it is in line with the decade, and I would think pre 21st century. Well, no, 90s started getting into that raunchy comedy. They kind of started going. They started getting in some territory. Then the 21st century came, and then that's when they just kind of went full on forward. I think with American Pie in the 90s, I think was the big turning point.
Yeah, but I don't think I agree with you just knowing John Hughes' overwork, because I think that his teen comedies were a lot more adult than what this was, which was his adult comedy. So it didn't really make sense to me.
Really, I'm thinking of 16 Candles. I remember a little bit about Pretty in Pink. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club isn't really that too adult.
Yeah, it is.
It's got some I would say that those movies have some questionable humor, but it's more like those just didn't age well. We now look at them like, okay, that's a bit inappropriate. But
well, I mean, like with the drug scenes, with like the looking into her skirt,
yeah,
the language.
But when
like, they definitely felt more adult than this did.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean so much like the adult humor. I'm talking about like the pacing of the humor in this movie. Like it's just not like, yeah, it is constant jokes, but I don't know. The comedy during this time had a different pacing. And
Okay.
I think movies, they started like from the 90s, and then especially in the 21st century, they started getting really loud with the raunchiness. Like,
Okay.
You kind of see what I'm saying there? Like, it was really in your
I
face.
understand that.
Yeah, we went from like, okay, we looked up Molly Ringwald's skirt for a second to, just like a whole sex scene being filmed on a webcam and people peering at it in the 90s. I believe American Pie was in the 90s.
I think so.
Yeah. Did you see American Pie? I don't mean to spoil that for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. I don't remember that part, though.
Yeah, I saw an article recently questioning that scene as well. And yeah, it's, no, that doesn't age well either. I definitely enjoyed this movie. There's some comedic scenes in here that did have me laughing out loud, that did have me exclaim. I wouldn't say like I was just rolling over the whole time. But again, during this, because we were talking about Coming to America recently, and that's not a movie either that I was falling over laughing, but I had some good chuckles and even some bigger laughs in a couple scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I also like this because it's not so over the top. Like with John Candy, here we have a buddy road trip movie where you have a straight guy and you have the funny guy, or straight gal, funny gal. Either way, we've seen that kind of. It's been slowing down. We don't see that too often. Movies that first come to mind are like Mistaken Identity with Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy, Due Date with Robert Williams and Zach Galifianakis.
No.
Huh?
Robert Williams is not in that.
Oh, not Robert Williams.
I don't even know who Robert Williams is.
Good old Robert Williams. No, Robert Williams wasn't in that one. Sorry, he was doing another film at the time with a similar title. Anyway, Robert Downey Jr.
Who is Robert Williams?
Don't worry about Robert Williams.
I don't know who that is.
Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. And those movies, their funny characters are just so over the top and annoying. The biggest one, the one I saw is like one of my most hated films, is Dinner for the Schmucks. And that's not a road trip, but it does have a straight character and a funny character. And the funny character is just so over the top and it's so impersonal that I can't get with it. Like, you were doing too much to make this character funny. And here, John Candy, he's a character that you would meet in real life. He's a genuine guy. Like, dude, you are so annoying, but I can't hate you because you're innocent. Like you're not purposely causing harm, and you do have a good heart, but at the same time, you're annoying the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
How did you feel about the actors? How did you feel about Steve Martin and John Candy in this? Because that's who we spend all the time with. That's the two biggest names on this movie.
I enjoyed both of their characters. I think I would have liked to see a little bit more out of Steve Martin, though. I think a lot of his role is kind of delegated to him just looking annoyed, and I would have liked to see a little bit more than that. Just because it's Steve Martin.
Right, right. But I think this is, again, we were talking about Coming to America, where Eddie Murphy seems to be a little bit more tamed in that movie and allowing the others to take hold and take the part of the comedy. And I think that's what kind of Steve Martin was doing here. One thing I forget about Steve Martin, and I feel like Jim Carrey is always the one that's only seen as the one that can really do physical comedy. And I don't mean slapstick. I just mean like the movement, the motions. Like when he's frustrated, like his tantrums, or he has a way of smiling that I think it brings, that itself brings humor to it. It's slight, but it brings enough to it.
Yeah, I agree.
How did you feel about John Candy?
John Candy, I liked. I thought his characterization is good. I haven't really seen too much with John Candy, so I don't really have much to compare his performance here for other things. But he was a fun character. I think that he played the annoying side well, and he was fun to watch. You were genuinely curious about what was going to happen next with these characters, and you wanted them to keep going together. Sometimes they would separate in a film, and you just wanted to put them back together because I think they did play off each other pretty well.
Yeah, they definitely played off each other very well. They actually, both of them say that this is their favorite film. I haven't seen too much of John Candy. I've seen a little bit of Uncle Buck. I've seen Little Shop of Horrors. He does the voice of Wilbur in The Rescuers Down Under, and Spaceballs as well. I've seen him in, and he's always funny. You know, rest in peace. I wish he got to do a lot more. Unfortunately, he had a early death. And actually, I just thought of another movie, and I always mix up these two actors because they're two big funny comedians who both actually had a unexpected death. Chris Farley had a movie with David Spade, which was a road trip movie that followed this one. I think 8 years later, and that movie was all right, but again, I think this movie does it better with it's almost like it's compressed. Like they don't have a limit that they go over. Except for one scene. Okay. John Candy was when he was clearing his sinuses while he's sleeping. I was like, all right, man, you're taking a little too far. You have to know that this is annoying.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But speaking of that scene, actually, and going to the next subject, when it came to their relationship, one thing that I liked in this movie is that they hit that breaking point rather early in the film. In other films, it's that build up for almost the whole movie until you get to that climax. Till you get to that moment where they yell at each other, they part ways, they realize they were wrong, or the straight character realizes they were wrong and they come back and decide to, make amends. But this, no, they hash it out pretty quick, and Steve Martin tears into him. Like, just goes at him for what feels like 10 minutes. And then Chris Farley, God dang, I'm already messing up. John Candy comes back at him, and he doesn't, the way he responds to him like, again, sticking true to his character. He doesn't blow up, but he just tells him how he really feels, and it makes Steve Martin feel bad. And it sets up, it's just another point in their development as to where you get to the end of the movie if they become friends or not. And I like that dynamic. Because then throughout the film, you kind of having this back and forth. You have more of a complex relationship.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do think that added a level of complexity to the relationship. That moment that you're talking about, there was a lot of heart and understanding that kind of came out of it. And then the rest of the film, they have their ups and downs. Sometimes they're getting along, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they want to be away from each other. And I think having that big blow up out of the way, I think you were able to enjoy those ups and downs a little bit more without knowing that it's building to that confrontation in that way.
Yes, definitely. And how did you feel about the story as it went on? Because this is a road trip movie, which is a a road movie is its own genre. It's a subgenre in film, and it usually just involves a couple people, at least two or more, trying to get from one location to the other, and hijinks ensued throughout. How did you feel about the way that this story progressed?
I think it progressed well. Like I said, these are characters that you want to see together. So there were times when they weren't together and you were kind of rooting for them for, the serendipity, I guess it would be, to bring them together again. And so I think that kept you engaged throughout the film.
Yeah, with a capital dippity on that, because there are some coincidence that occurs in this film. There is like that's what I said. Life is like playing a game with them to bring them together. Like there's a moment that he trips over his bag, and that's why he doesn't get into the one taxi and tries to get into the other taxi that has him into it, which gets him to the airport to get him. There was a lot of coincidence. Like this was soulmate level tie-in.
Yeah, I think that was something too that I noticed, that it really felt like a rom-com in a way. I mean, it was a buddy movie, of course, but in a way it felt like that. It felt like a lot of moments that you would see in a rom-com.
Yeah, it was like a bro-com.
Yeah. Like with that destiny, they were destined to travel together, to be together.
One of my there's also just one of my favorite scenes in this movie, because there's some scenes that are there are two scenes in particular I think are comedy gold in this, and one of them is the bed scene. And I forgot how they built up to that bed scene. So they get to a room and they have to share one bed, but they don't want to talk about it yet. But the camera goes back to the bed and it just looks at it. And I think the movie does a great job when it comes to visual comedy. Again, not like physical people falling down, but just kind of showing you things and then either building it up or just having it out there. And that's a great scene. I mean, they named their DVD commentary after that, which is Two Soft Pillows, because his hand ends up in two soft pillows. But I love when they get up and they realize that they've been cuddling, and so they go back to like being some very hardcore alpha males. Like, yeah, you check out that football game. Yeah, that's a great football game. They're gonna go all the way, and they just go off. Another moment, actually, I'll bring that moment up later, because that's what I have for influence. Actually, did you get like some big laughs out of this movie?
I think my favorite moment comedy-wise was when they have a rental car and it is John Candy's turn to drive, and there's some shenanigans that happen during that car ride and directly after. And I think that, for me, that was my favorite part of the film, I think.
Yeah, and that's actually that was the next one I was about to say.
That was the
one
next
I had
one,
influence
yeah.
for. So we'll talk about that one some more, because I think that's, when I say comedy gold, I mean like if you're to stack up like comedy's greatest hits throughout film, I think those two scenes belong in there, if not at least one of them. And I would say the truck scene is the best one, the car rental.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that you will continue, like, I know it's hard for us to rewatch movies because we watch so many movies. So, I mean, do you even have traditional movies that you watch every year?
For Christmas, yeah.
Do you think that you would add this to, like, if someone asked you for a Thanksgiving movie, or you had family over, or you were over family and, you were going to put on a movie for Thanksgiving, is this something that you would put on, or at least understand if somebody put on for Thanksgiving?
Yes, but I don't know if it's because it's the only Thanksgiving movie really that I can think of off the top of my head. I think that, let me put it this way. If I'm looking for a movie and I really want to put on a movie for Thanksgiving, yeah, I'll go ahead and put this on. But in general, am I going to make this a traditional thing? I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I'll make this traditional thing, but I don't have many traditions. Like I said, I watch too many movies, so usually I'll try to find something new to watch for the holidays.
Okay. Yeah, like I definitely have my Christmas movies that I watch all the time. We always watch Elf in my family, and other ones that I've just watched pretty frequently for the Christmas season. I always like to watch Rudolph's Shiny New Year too, for New Year's. And of course, Charlie Brown specials too. I enjoy those. Although I think there is a Thanksgiving Charlie Brown special, but I've never had as much of a connection to that as I did the Christmas one and even the Halloween one.
I think the other thing is too that I know I'm going to see this movie again. It may not be this year, but somewhere down the line, I'm going to end up watching Elf again. Like I've seen that movie so many times because of other people's traditions. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I don't see the movie within every like 3 years, I'm going to be in a dental office one day and my doctor's going to get locked in his office and they're going to try to bust down the door. And the whole time is going to take like the perfect runtime of Elf. And I'm just going to end up watching the whole thing.
That's an oddly specific prediction there.
Hey, it may be the coincidence that this movie portrays as well. I'm thinking about bringing something to this show, which is what dates this movie? Because
what do you mean?
We see things because, we're talking about movies from all throughout the decades, and we'll sometimes see things like, man, that was a thing of that age. Like, we do not see that anymore. For this movie, the one that got me was that they had $700 in cash in a wallet, and in the other wallet had $232 in cash. And then they said that their credit card can only get them so far. Man, that is the complete opposite now. Now you got like $4. If you lose your credit card, you're screwed. If you lose the cash, you're like, all right, I'll just go ahead and get more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially like since COVID, because like nobody carries cash anymore.
Yeah, no, even before COVID, that's one thing. Well, I would say is in the States, we don't carry as much cash. In Europe, a lot of them still pay with cash. At least when I was in Italy, a lot of them still paid with cash.
Now, when I waitressed, I always had a lot of cash, but that's a different scenario.
Yeah, but even now, like I don't tip with cash. I always just write it down on the receipt.
So the way that it works in waitressing is that you kind of get paid out, so you always get paid in cash.
Oh, okay. No paper trail. Got it. That's what happens, guys, when you serve for the mob.
No, you still have to like input it in, but then like you get money. It's a complicated scenario, but yes, you always get cash when you're waitressing.
Now I'm just picturing you serving for the mob and one of the guys being like, "Hey, here's $100. All right, we're gonna have some guests over. Just make sure the place is nice and quiet for us. Make sure that the bottles keep on spinning. All right."
Yeah, that's what it was. But don't tell anyone.
Yeah, but that's crazy. People kept that much cash on them. My dad actually had growing up, I grew up during the time that we did have still cash in our pockets, but I wasn't growing up with $700. So I think the most at one time I did have $100. I think I sold my game system or something. But I remember my dad taught me a trick about putting $20 in your sole, in your shoe. And one time something happened to his shoes and they got like beat up. So he's like, all right, I'm trading them out. And he was in New York and just like went up to, one of those outdoor clothing shops and bought himself a new pair of shoes and ditched the other ones. He got like down a couple miles and realized, he's like, crap, I left money in those shoes and started running back.
Oops.
Different times, guys. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about in your overall opinion?
No, I think that's it.
Now, I mentioned that I had something for my influence that you brought up, and that was that this movie has been parodied quite a few times. And two of the biggest times that I can think of is in Family Guy. There's one episode where Peter recites exactly, I think word for word, the speech that John Candy gives to Steve Martin mid-film. And then there's another one where Brian and Stewie are flying a helicopter and they end up getting in a crash. And Brian looks over at Stewie and he's wearing a devil costume to mimic the truck crash that they get into in this movie, which is, I think is done so well because that's the time like the movie goes like that's when it gets stranger than fiction. That's like when it really just goes out there, but it's so surprising and so well timed that it's fantastic.
Yeah. Like I said, I liked that scene. It was also referenced in a couple other animated series too. I think there's an episode of Teen Titans Go that kind of parodies it, and there's an episode of Bobby's World, which is an older animated series. So I don't know if everyone knows about that. I remember Bobby's World vaguely.
I do not remember that. But I
Very
feel like
vaguely.
everybody had a world. That's probably why I'm getting confused.
Yeah, that's true.
Deadpool too, as well. He's reading a book in the film in two scenes. I think when he's like trying to recuperate from the incident that sets off that film, and it's called Mounted Canadian, and it's a prop book. And John Candy is reading it at the airport when he first meets Steve Martin officially for the first time. Because I saw that book and I was like, what the heck is Mounted Canadian? Like I'm not gonna lie, I got interested for a second. I'm like, what kind of book? Because what confused me is that it looked like smut, but it had like the ink, I guess, ink trails of the book. They had the pages of a novel. So like, what is he?
Yeah.
What kind of novelization is he reading right here? And I found out it's just a complete prop book. But there's actually, you can buy that print on T-shirts. There's actually a couple stores that sell that. Yeah. And I think you can actually just buy the prop book as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So I don't know. I may start reading that at the airport.
It's a reference. You wouldn't get it.
Yeah. Well, the people from the 80s would be like, oh, what? You know about this? Young blood, what do you know about planes, trains, and automobiles?
Yeah, I think this film also had an influence on road trip movies in general. I mean, we talked about Due Date, but that is definitely one where you have Zach Galifianakis. He's playing the oddball of heart, and Robert Downey or Robert Williams, as you said, plays the straight-laced man. I mean, this certainly wasn't the first buddy road trip film, but I do think it had a large influence on genre and the comedy genre in general.
Yeah, if anything, this just kept it going, and I'm pretty sure that if someone is developing a road trip movie, they will watch this one
absolutely.
and study from this. Unfortunately, like we said, they don't really always do too well with that because John Candy's character usually gets just way too crazy, and I talk about it all the time, how certain characterizations will pull me out of a film, and over-the-topness is one of them.
I feel like early to mid-2000s comedy was weird. It was very weird.
All movies were weird. All subgenres were just, I'm telling you, 2000s is debatably probably especially early 2000s, probably the worst in movie history.
Yeah. I won't argue with that.
Yeah, it's between the 90s and the early 2000s, but they definitely bleed into each other, which is weird because there's so many great movies that came out during that time. But it was also a weird transition, and I think that's when they started. Well, no, that's not when they started getting trendy, because they were getting trendy way before.
I feel like as far as over the top situations, there was so much more of that. There's some over the top situations in this movie too, but it still felt somewhat grounded and it still had that comedy. I think for late 90s, early 2000s comedy, sometimes just over the top and improbable, and it wasn't funny.
Yeah, it's just, it was that edgy humor. Like I said, when American Pie came out, that really set up the raunchiness in movies. So they were like, oh man, now everybody wants to get that one laugh. They want to get that big laughter in the movie theaters. And there were some great movies that followed that period. I know Judd Apatow definitely took a lot from that. I love Superbad. Superbad is hilarious. And there were some other, I know a lot of people liked, I think Knocked Up was known as a good movie, 40-Year-Old Virgin. But those movies kind of toned it down. But other movies, they kept trying to just push it a lot further. And recently in comedy, it's finally, I think it's finally gone away, but we were getting a lot of screaming for a while. Mm-hmm. We were getting, blame Kevin Hart a little bit. There's a lot of screaming, and it just felt like all the movies were just loud. Yeah. It's like watching Batman Forever again.
I feel like too, some films just didn't know how to balance the drama and heart with the comedy, which I think this film does very well.
Yeah, they don't really, I don't know, it's like they go off of the biggest emotion and how can we evoke that emotion even more? It's like we want that emotion, and we it's like they looked at them without looking at the screen and saw a big laugh, and that's what they wanted. Because you also see with horror movies, every time we get a new type of horror, that's going to be the next big thing. We talked about before, paranormal and jump scares. Now, every movie has to have 100,000 jump scares in it. And finally, it's starting to get worn out and people are switching, but we still get our movies here and there with that. And there is a place. They do make money. People are enjoying them, so go with it. But unfortunately, it's not going to make anything memorable.
Yeah.
Anything you found for the significance?
I just noticed, as far as the significance, that it was a departure for John Hughes, because he was only doing those teen comedies before, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller. So it really showed his range as a director, and it also kicked off a series of holiday movies from him, including Home Alone and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which he served on both of those as a writer.
Okay, and National Lampoon is one that came before this movie that had a road trip style to it. I think it was National Lampoon Vacation.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of those movies, but
You're not a big Chevy
I like
Chase
Home
fan.
Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't like Chevy Chase.
Who doesn't like Home Alone?
Yeah, that's true. If you don't like Home Alone, I don't trust you. Unless it's like the later ones, but like when they recasted.
Oh yeah, one came out last year that was awful.
Oh
One of the
yeah,
worst
that is
movies of
true.
last year. But those are holiday movies, and this is a holiday movie of its own. And I think that's significant is that this is just one of those Thanksgiving movies that are out there. And I saw when I looked this up for streaming, Google also went ahead. I didn't know it. I don't know if this is a new feature or they just don't play much on TV, but I saw that this had, there's runtimes coming up for this. There's a list of runtimes that this movie is playing on repeat on AMC. So it is that Thanksgiving season. So they're like, all right, go ahead, put on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That makes sense.
But it's weird looking at the poster and looking at the main poster and looking at some other marketing posters. It looks like a Christmas movie. Like even the colors, the snowfall, it looks much like a Christmas movie.
I mean, it does feel like a Christmas movie. I honestly think that if you replace Thanksgiving with Christmas in this film, it would make no difference to the plot or any of it, really.
You just replace it with every holiday. Just have somebody just keep dubbing over. I gotta get to my family for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Although one thing I did find funny was that originally it was meant to be shot in Chicago, but there wasn't enough snow. Which, I mean, if you know Chicago, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I bet they went out there and like, wow, really? The one time? Like we're filming in Chicago the whole time. I guess Chicago got stage fright. They're like, all right, here we go. About to bring in the snow for this movie. And they're like, action. And Chicago's just, son? Like, all right, recast them with, where did they go?
New York.
New York.
It was mostly in New York, yeah.
Yeah, they called up New York, like, hey, New York. And like, look who came crawling back. Old Chicago couldn't handle it, could they? Yeah, come back over here to film. You know you want to. I'm like, God dang it, man. We keep filming. Everything gets filmed in New York. And you know what? That's because New York has a stage presence.
Yeah.
Who would you recommend this film for?
I think I would recommend it to a general audience. And like I said, I would recommend it as a family movie. Like you said, it's just, maybe older kids or maybe get that edited TV version. I'm not sure. Like I said, there really isn't a lot that makes this into that R rating, except for like maybe 2 scenes that I saw. So I think it still works as a family movie.
And during that one scene, it is 1 minute. Like it's exactly 60 seconds, I believe. And the F-bomb is dropped 19 times.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a movie for everyone, from general audience, and I'll say even cinephiles, because we talk about it, comedy, there's not much comedy for cinephiles. So if you want to see, comedy throughout the decades, and you want to see some 80s comedy, see how they did it back then, how they did some of the good 80s comedy back then this is a movie to pull up. And I think this has this has some nice visual comedy in it that you don't see anymore. Like if you do see visual comedy, it's more physical. It's really in your face. And actually, I was speaking about that minute, and it reminded me, this movie actually, even being a comedy and being at an hour and a half, the original cut was over 3 hours long.
Mm-hmm. I did see that.
Like, I don't know. I guess they took more than just Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The original movie must have been called like Planes, Trains, Dog Sled, Space Travel, and Automobiles. Because that thing was an epic. It's like 2 days just to watch the movie.
Yeah, right. I wondered how much of that was just like because of ad-lib too. Like with those 2 actors, I'm sure.
John Hughes did say that the way he writes, he likes to have moments for improv from actors, which is actually something else that's a problem with comedy nowadays. Some comedy movies is that they allow the improv to go on for too long, or you can tell that they're improving. Will Ferrell movies, a lot of times they do that, and you can kind of tell. And sometimes it works. Will Ferrell's a great guy. But yeah, this film, there was one shot in particular where Steve Martin shakes somebody's hand with spit on it. He actually didn't know that person has spit in their hands. And so that, like, the expression you see on his face is actual disgust. But that's because they kept shooting the scene, and John Hughes just couldn't get what he wanted. So he's like, hey, man, go ahead, spit on your hand.
Gross.
But there are a lot of deleted scenes. I didn't have the time to watch them. I want to go back and watch them. But they did play in the trailers. They sometimes play on the TV spots. Even the televised version has some of those deleted scenes. There's actually, you see John Candy in the theatrical release with a black eye. And I got really confused. I'm like, where did that black eye come from? And found out that there's a deleted scene in where Steve Martin punches him in the face.
Oh my.
Yeah, I think they took that out because they do have another moment of striking, so they probably don't want to make it seem like too abusive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't.
I feel like it wouldn't have fit. I feel like it
Yeah.
wouldn't really have fit.
By that point in the movie, I don't think it would have fit. But the reason, I'll tell you the reason why, though. He punched him in the face, and honestly, I can understand a little bit more. But we'll talk about that in spoilers.
Okay.
And speaking of spoilers, Caitlyn, anything you want to say while we have this folder classified?
No, let's go ahead and move right into it.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into the spoilers. Like I said, if you haven't seen this movie, you're waiting for Thanksgiving to see it, or you just don't care about spoilers, then hey, go ahead and proceed. So first thing, with spoilers out on the table, Caitlyn, I think it was absolutely crazy when the planes, trains, and automobiles turned into Decepticons, and Steve Martin and John Candy had to save the planet.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. It really took me off guard.
Yeah, but they handled it like a champ.
They did.
So what would you in reality like to talk about first with the? Well, actually, we were just coming off of that one thing that I said was a spoiler of why
Yeah,
he had the black eye. So we know that the car gets completely destroyed, and we find out that John Candy had put it on his card, and he was planning to send him money. Like he had a good heart about it. He was kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, and he finds out that he did not have the car insured. He did not get insurance on the rental car that they totaled.
Oh gosh.
And that's why he punches him in the face.
Okay, yeah, I that's a little fair.
Yeah. I was like, I kind of got it. That makes sense. Now the only one that really
honestly, that part in the film I think was like the worst thing that John Candy's character had done up until that point.
Yeah, everything else was all right. That's like everything else. It wasn't costing him money. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like causing direct harm to him. But that right there, that was one. He had a traumatic situation. Like he saw the devil. He saw the afterlife for a bit, and yeah, his wallet burnt up. Which I like when he asked him for a major credit card and he starts pulling them out. He's like, "Well, I got this one. It's all burnt up." And I like what they did with John Candy too. They did give him a sense of like, you understand how this person functions in the world, because he's a great salesman, which is something I think Tommy Gunn steals from this movie. Not Tommy Gunn, Tommy Boy. I think steals from this movie. He's a fantastic salesman. So he has some competence to him. And I think also you can understand why his wife loved him as well.
Yeah.
You can understand why anybody would love him, but you can understand why people would be frustrated with him.
Mm-hmm.
What did you actually think about the reveal with John Candy, and how did you see that coming? Because they did throw in a couple of hints throughout the film, but did you see that coming?
Yeah, I definitely saw that coming, which when I learned it was kind of a last minute addition to the film, I was a little surprised, because I definitely thought it was predictable. Not that I disliked it. I was not glad that his wife was dead, but I think that the way that the film ended, it made sense. And I enjoyed the way that the film ended, especially as a more family movie, a more holiday movie, something that's heartwarming. I think it worked.
Yeah, I think that's when it got a little. John Hughes was right at the end, but it wasn't cheesy like how Steven Spielberg was with Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Though I was kind of wondering, like, Steve's wife was crying like he got back from war.
Yeah, she was a little dramatic to me.
Yeah, I'm like, I was like, all right, I get the tears, but do you really have to be speechless as well?
It was a little weird to me, because like her and John Candy shared this like weird glance, and I was like, oh, are they going to be polyamorous after this movie? Like, is this what's happening? He's going to move in and they're all going to take care of the kids together, a good old throuple.
Yeah, I thought John Candy was going to go ahead and like call her by his deceased wife's name, and she goes, "No, that was my twin sister." Brother?
Yep, I left this movie like, all right, yep, they're a throuple now. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, geez, the hijinks with that one. Yeah, it was a nice little ending, and especially when you find, because one of the things I liked is that he carries this trunk around the whole time, and you're wondering what's in the trunk. Like, is it going to be revealed that he's got a body in there, and this whole time, like Steve Martin's been aiding and abetting with a criminal, but you find out that it's because he has his whole life in the trunk.
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't really think much of the trunk, to be honest, because I was like, oh, that's like his shower rod or shower rings business. He's working out of there. Like, he just travels a lot selling these things. Like, so that's what I thought. I don't think that him not having a home was as much of a predictable part for me as that his wife was deceased.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that was predictable, but I think you can tie it in once that gets revealed. Like, okay, that's most likely what's in the trunk. Because when he shows up the shower curtains, like, he's kind of pulling them from his jacket. He actually puts them out on display for Steve Martin, like they're Pokemon badges. I think it was a very, very sweet moment. And I think that's really where the holiday theme comes in. And I think it was a nice little, it was a sad, touching moment. And I think it's good that the movie, the way that they had like their breaking point early in the film, it allowed this to be more emotional. It wasn't so rushed. Because in other films, we would have had the climax like 20 minutes before this and then ran right into that emotional part. And it would have felt probably a little too forced, a little too much emotion at once.
Yeah. I think one thing that, it's definitely a nitpick, but there was like one cutaway that I didn't like. It like cut to Steve Martin's daughter's Thanksgiving recital, and I was like, I don't care about this. I don't really like this cutaway. And then like it cut away to the wife a couple times where she was just like brooding because he's not there, and I feel like some of the cuts to the family were a little bit much.
Yeah, that was, I wonder like if there was like another man like in the scenes that we didn't see, something that was having her so conflicted. I don't know what they promised that little girl, if they gave her top billing or something, but yeah, she got a lot of scenes.
Yeah, she did.
There's a scene where her mother's on the phone and she's like, "Who's on the phone, mommy? Who's on the phone?" Like, whoa, chill. Though I remember bothering my mom on the phone all the time, which I don't understand. Like thinking back to it, like why didn't I just shut up? Like I can obviously see that she's on the phone. Like what is the breakup there? Anything else you want to say while we have the spoilers up?
No, I think that's all I really had to say.
Okay. Does this movie hold up for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think the comedy for the most part holds up. I mean, even you said the part of the credit card and the dollars, like, yeah, it doesn't entirely hold up in today's age, but I think you can understand it. It works. So I think that it holds up.
Yeah, I have to say, surprisingly so, this holds up like throughout. Because we talked about it. John Hughes has some questionable, or not even questionable. It's comedy that does not hold up to today's standards. It's stuff that we look at in a different light and we see it. It's something that's intolerable. But this, like, yeah, throughout, even the humor with him saying the F word and just berating this worker. Because at first, she was on the phone talking about her Thanksgiving dinner while you had people in line. So I was like, all right, I understand his frustration. But then he started kind of going a little bit overboard with that. I'm like, all right, this isn't like her. I'm against like putting out your anger on the person at the front desk for something that's happening behind the scenes, unless that person at the front desk is calling for it. But the way that she comes back at him, I think is great.
Yeah.
And I think that makes the scene all right. Because at first it's like, you're kind of laughing at the fact that he's berating her, but that's not right. It's not right to berate her. But the way she comes back at him, like, okay, never mind. She got the one up on the situation. And then he goes on and he gets punched in the face and then picked up by his testicles.
Yeah, the thing with that F-bomb scene is that, like, I think that's why I don't find it particularly iconic, which is, everyone says is the iconic scene for this. But for me, it wasn't really that funny, which is kind of why I was like, whatever. I would have been okay if it was cut out. But I do think that we all feel that frustration, especially during the holidays, when, customer service and anywhere you go it's going to be hard. It's a difficult thing to navigate, being out in the stores and stuff, and car rentals, travel places during the holidays. We get that stress. We understand and relate to that stress. But I did enjoy the performance and the comeback from the clerk a lot.
Yeah, and this isn't one of the scenes. I already said the two scenes that I find most iconic, and this isn't one of them. This was a funny scene, but I think, honestly, what makes this scene is not Steve Martin. It's the clerk. Like
Yeah,
that's what seals
definitely.
the deal on the joke. Yeah, because at first I was like, all right, he's gonna. I was like, we're just saying the F word. Like the F word by itself isn't funny. It's how it's used.
Hmm.
What would you rate this film?
I'll give it a solid B. Like I'm not in love with this movie, and but if I'll watch it if it's on. And I enjoyed it for what it was, and I think it was a heartwarming film, and I enjoyed the performances. So I think it's a solid B.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a step further and say B plus because this had two comedic scenes that I've actually gone back and I've watched. Like I looked it up on my YouTube and yeah, I saw like it's already been watched, the scene with the truck. And that's the scene I go back and I look to every now and then. Which is weird because I did give Coming to America a solid B, but it don't want to compare ratings to ratings because everything has its own almost scale. But I give this a B plus. It's a solid B film, but for me, it gets that plus because it has just two iconic comedian scenes to it.
Yeah. I think even more than just the scene with the truck. Like I think when they get pulled over when they're still trying to drive this car that is completely burned down, that for me was funny.
Oh, that was great. He's like, well, you see, the speedometer is melted, so no, I can't tell how fast.
Yeah.
I like the one that got me was because I completely forgot about it, but that's the one that made me exclaim was when he put it in reverse and went through the hotel room.
Yeah.
And there were also some heartfelt scenes that I really liked in here, like when he decides to invite him back in. Like, it's going to come when he gets to the hotel room and he sees him out in the car. And John Candy has a sweet moment where he's like, man, I always do this, I always mess things up. So you really see his true intentions. And then they have this nice scene with them like drinking together, which I don't know how they're affording all this vending machine and the mini bar.
I wonder that too. Like, how did they get this alcohol? You have no money.
I think alcohol was just given for free back then, like cigarettes.
Okay.
And I was kind of wondering, like, how are you guys going to end this scene? Because I think that's a difficult scene to end because you do have it kind of heartfelt, but at the same time you do have this comedy going on. And I think it ends great with him touching the light bulb and getting shocked by it because he's drunk. I was like, okay, that's good. It was very well done. And again, I like seeing that the complexity with the characters, that they do have this back and forth where they do have these moments. It's not like the whole film we just got to watch them bicker. They have this, they have their nice moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Any final comments?
Nope.
So our next episode, we're going to continue with the holidays. And we're getting to December, which means, well, pretty much it's Christmas all around. All right, or, any happy holidays, whatever it may be. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the anti-Christmas film. And the anti-Christmas film that we're going to go with, which is a Christmas film that is a Christmas film, but not with the normal themes that you would see, the unconventional way of telling these themes, of bringing family together. And what's going to be bringing our family together is a little mistake that goes ahead and spawns dozens of little gremlins. That's right, we're going to be watching, well, Gremlins, a movie that Caitlyn has not seen and has been shocking me for years.
I've seen parts of it, but never the whole thing.
Yeah, this is one of my, if not my favorite anti-Christmas film, just one of my favorite Christmas films. It's actually, we'll talk about it a lot more, but it's a movie that I rediscovered. That I saw
it's an 80s film, right?
Yeah. I think we're getting rid of a lot of the 80s films this year.
I feel like a lot of my, I haven't seen films are 80s, early 90s.
Which is weird because our parents are the same age. So your parents also grew up during the 80s. It's interesting that you don't see more movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's all films that she's seen, but she just never introduced them to me. Other than Labyrinth, I don't think she's really introduced too many 80s movies to me. And The Breakfast Club.
Hey, at least she got that for you. And so next year, actually, I just learned something, so I'm going to share this information with you guys. So Gremlins 3 is coming out, which we already know, for 2023. And there's a TV series. It says it came out 2022. I got to figure out where this is airing, but it's the Gremlin Secrets of the Mogwai, which is Gizmo. Or at least that's what Gizmo is. And we are, so right now, we're deciding whether or not we want to go ahead and do Gremlins 2, the new batch, on this episode or if we'll save it for next year. I really want to do it as soon as possible, but it may be something better to do next year. So you guys will go ahead and learn when we go ahead and do the film, the episode. But till then, you guys can go ahead and actually, before we go ahead and tell you where you can reach us, Caitlyn here is working on a project and she'd like to go ahead and tell you guys about that. Go ahead, Caitlyn.
Yeah, I actually am producing a film right now. It's for Donut Guy Productions. That's me and a friend of mine. It's our production company. And we're working on a film entitled Ultra Black right now. We're going into production. When we're filming it will be this week. It'll be a little bit past by the time this episode airs. But we are on social media. We're going to be sharing behind the scenes videos, photos, and other status updates on the film. And that's going to be at Ultra Black Film on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. The film follows a young black teenager who is ridiculed for acting white. I say that in quotation marks. Because he doesn't really fit into the stereotypical preconceived notions of blackness that his peers put on him. And because of this, he has a little bit of a racial identity, and at the same time, he actually begins to literally lose pigmentation in his skin tone. So he has, like I said, a little bit of a racial crisis, and he needs to figure out what it really means to be himself before he loses his sense of identity for good. So it's a good message. It's going to be a short film. Once again, that's from Donut Guy Productions. We also have our own social media for there, and so I hope you guys check it out. As for us at Operation Silver Screen, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at OpSilverScreen. On Facebook, we're going to be at Operation Silver Screen, but Twitter and Instagram, once again, are Op Silver Screen. You can also find me and Bryant on our personal letterboxes. Bryant's going to be at Swank Seal, that's capital S, and I'm at Coffee Spoon Kate, that's Coffee Spoon CAIT. You can follow us there just to see some other films that we're watching throughout the week, maybe see some reviews on films that we're not talking about on here on the podcast, so please do give us a follow there.
Yeah, and actually, I did not know that's what the movie was about. I thought you guys were working on the other film, which we've spoke of, that you were working on the screenplay for. So this is genuine reaction. That actually sounds like a really interesting story. I'm gonna go ahead and follow that as well. So I definitely implore you guys to do the same. Okay, Caitlyn, you want to go ahead and Venmo me the money?
Shameless plug.
But till next time, guys, we'll be in HQ. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
See you.